Good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 7th, 2021 regular City Council meeting. Will Councilmember Banks please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Councilmember Banks, you're muted.
Yikes, sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please let the record show that all council members are present. Tonight is an especially sad and difficult time for our community and other communities. Random senseless violence took the lives of several people at an incident that occurred on Pack Highway in Des Moines. Our hearts go out to those family and the friends of those who were either injured or killed. I'm going to ask Assistant Chief Mark Cooey to give us a police update. Council, I ask your understanding as this is an ongoing investigation. This has limits on what can be revealed at this time. So at this time, I will turn the floor over to Assistant Chief Cooey.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all know, on September 26th, just before 2 a.m., 6 people were shot at La Familia Pub and Lounge. Another person was severely beaten. 3 of those 6 died. And this was, in fact, a terrible tragedy. As the mayor mentioned, the crime does remain under investigation. However, I can tell you that 1 search warrant has already been served. Search warrants are planned. At least 2 persons of interest have been identified. We're not ready to name them. Detectives continue to follow numerous leads and tips. And in fact, we've received 20 tips from Crime Stoppers. We've reviewed over 227 gigabytes of digital evidence, lots of video from inside, outside, nearby, other businesses, as well as cell phone video. And we're working closely with the King County Prosecutor's Office, and there are several senior deputy prosecutors assigned to this case. We've also been in contact with the U.S. Marshal's Office and the Liquor and Cannabis Board. And we definitely encourage anybody with information to come forward and contact our department. And I guess the key point that I want to make is that we're not going to leave any stone unturned in pursuing this case and seeking justice. And so I also want to say that our hearts go out to the families affected. There was a vigil for one of the victims, Ezra Taylor, and again, we want to do everything that we can to make sure this case comes to a conclusion and is presented to the prosecutors. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I think it's important to note that this is not Des Moines. This is not indicative of this wonderful town that we live in. And then we will look forward to the conclusion of the investigation and what goes on. At this point, I will ask if there is any correspondence or written comment.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no correspondence, and the following have provided written public comment for tonight. Landmark on the Sound: Vanessa Chin, Tad Doviak, Wendy Fosberg, Karen Staley, and Brian Zagers. Des Moines grocery workers deserve hazard pay: Courtney Anderson, Axel Anderson, Anna M., Corey Bevel, Scott Bree, Sheila Butler, Lori Dahl, Josh Hansen, Emmanuel Kale, Baljit Kaur, Danielle Kinney, Michaelin Khan, Hai Lai, Zachary Messmer, Michael Mongrain, Juanita Ramirez, Raul Robles, Alexandra Rodas, Rima Soli, Asmaret Tail, Nemo Youssef. Friends of Saltwater State Park proposal, Rhoda Green. And that concludes correspondence and public comment, Mayor.
There's no public comment. Okay. Okay. So at this point, since there is no public comment, we will move forward to the city manager's report. Michael Mathias, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, a couple of items. I'd like to start with a brief discussion of our budget process and calendar. State law requires that the city manager submit a recommended budget in early October, which we've done. That formal submittal takes the place of the finance director providing the city clerk with that document. So we've done that, and the plan, and Beth Ann will walk through the actual calendar. Our plan is that tomorrow we will electronically send all council members the draft budget, the recommended budget. And we will also be posting that on our website. And Beth Ann, do you want to talk about the formal review of the calendar, please?
Yes, thank you, council members and community. Our budget process, working with the city clerk in September, she was able to publish the notices for public hearings in October. As of tomorrow, the budget will be made available to city council and to the public. Our first public hearing, which is the first reading of the 2022 preliminary annual budget, will be October 21st, city council meeting. Then on November 18th, 2021, at the council meeting, we will have a public hearing for general property tax levy and revenue sources. Public hearing for the 2022 preliminary annual budget, which is the second reading. And at that time, we usually ask that you adopt that budget. Public hearing for a budget amendment for the 2021 annual budget. And that's our process over the next couple months.
Thank you, Beth Ann.
You're welcome.
This is, if you can imagine instituting a new financial management system, addressing all the requirements of ARPA, and then also preparing the budget. That's about half of Beth Ann's workload. So we appreciate how well you're doing. Just stay above water. I'd like to go on. We had a very positive event on September 21st, and we just have a brief PowerPoint to show everyone the inaugural void and mayage of our passenger ferry service. So this is the boat that we were provided with by the Griffith family. They own Pier 57. They they own dining facilities there. They're very interested in their future in Des Moines. This was a private event hosted by the Griffiths. And for that reason, we kind of constrained our access for people, especially electeds, because we didn't want to get in a situation where the Open Public Meetings Act was in effect, because we had no idea what the public response would be. The boat wouldn't have had enough capacity for the public. So I'll just show you a few pictures of the ferry that we sailed from the dock to Pier 57 and back. Here we had some of our legislators, Representative Orwell on the right, Senator Kaiser in the middle, Senator Claire Wilson on the left. That's some of the beauty of the city as you make your way out into the Sound. It was a gorgeous day, just fantastic. Beautiful pictures of Mount Rainier. We were accompanied by several orcas. That picture looks like there's more than several right there. So that's a relatively accurate representation of what happened, but we had we were joined by orcas as we were going towards Seattle, which was really astonishing. And then returning to the marina, it's just a completely different view when you see it from the water side, just extraordinary. And finally, we saw a lone seal pup in the channel as we re-entered the marina. And I think it's safe to say everyone had a phenomenal time, the level of energy and interest. We had invited from the city, Mayor Pina and Councilmember Nutting. And the mayor, obviously, as mayor, and Councilmember Nutting as the chair of economic development and municipal facilities. And that they also had in common that they weren't running for office. So with that, we, we're pleased to have them with us. So at any rate, that was the ferry update. Following that, Dan's going to talk a little about the capital improvements on the marina, where we are with that. Just to remind everyone, tomorrow is the deadline for submission of the request for qualifications for marina redevelopment. And, we're excited to see, what that looks like, and we'll be informing council as we move forward with that process. But that, we've been looking forward to tomorrow for a long time in this city. So Dan, do you want to talk a little about marina improvements?
Actually, Andrew's going to give us an update.
Andrew, good. Okay.
All right, good evening, City Council and Mayor. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, just a quick update on the North Marina parking lot bulkhead project. As everybody knows, we've started down there. A little bit of background for maybe any folks who don't know what's going on. The bulkhead down on the floor was completed in 1979, and it's got a lot of structural deficiencies with it and failures, so necessitating the rebuild of the entire bulkhead on that north parking lot. That also includes the restrooms that were completed back in 1980 as well. As far as the work that we're pursuing right now, we're under contract for phase 1 and phase 2 to complete all of the bulkhead, the restroom replacement, as well as the breakwater. And under construction right now, just to kind of give folks an idea of how challenging the project is, the existing bulkhead, as we know, has had its issues over the years, and we were doing a little bit of work down there at the contractor and actually had part of the north wall fail on us. And the picture that you see here, let me see if I can get a little laser pointer here. You can see on this picture right here, kind of voids in the wall itself where material comes out. And then this is actual full-fledged failure of about 20 to 25 feet long that kind of collapsed as we were doing work right around there. So a lot of challenges. It's kind of like playing with glass out there. You kind of move one direction, things move a little bit. So we're kind of being very careful on what we do down there. The positive news with all the work that we're doing down there, besides how challenging it is the breakwater itself. We're almost complete with that. This is a picture of all the piles that have been driven to date out there. There will be a concrete cap, and it'll be definitely a lot more aesthetically appealing when we're done with that. But it's been a great success so far. We haven't had to use impact hammers, so you haven't heard any hammering noises yet. Everything has been done by vibratory hammering, which just kind of shakes the piles in the ground out there. A little bit of a picture over here of some dredging work that we've done so far to pull out some existing riprap out on the beach and adjacent to the wall. And this is a little bit of excavation. This is the north wall right here on getting ready to actually start driving piles in and start putting our tiebacks, drilling our tiebacks in the ground out there. So that's, you'll see this ongoing right now until we get the sheet piles installed out there. And that's all I had. If there's any questions on what's going on, I'm happy to answer those.
Andrew, I'd like to say, that we had to wait almost 3 years to get the permits. And I want to tell you, Andrew, the level of activity down there is making up that time. So we really appreciate the focus and effort that's going into this. And Mayor, that concludes city manager's report.
I had one question from Councilmember
Sure.
Harris.
Andrew, yeah, I'm surprised I've never thought of this before, but when the original bulkhead was put up, what did it meet its spec as far as estimated lifetime, or?
I don't know. I wasn't part of the engineering back then, but in general, the timber wall that was built there has actually exceeded its expected lifespan. So the facility itself has held up very, very well. It's just now the timber, the steel that was used for the tiebacks is more or less just corroding and degraded. So we're lucky to be where we're at with the facility. But yeah, it's definitely exceeded its previous lifespan in my mind.
Okay, but I mean, it met its design goal. You know, I mean, it was expected to last about this long.
Yeah, that would be my opinion. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I believe Councilmember Nutting.
Yeah, I just had one quick question on what the projected end date. I know we're in the fish window. I just didn't know if we'll be fully wrapped up and then have to hit another window next year, or where we're going to be with that.
Sure, great question. Pending how this winter goes with the sheet pile driving and the weather, we are trying to not get into a second fish window. So if the stars align and everything goes smoothly, I'm hoping by the end of the summer, we should start seeing a conclusion on this. If issues do come up, we will definitely be working in the next fish window, the fall and winter of 2022. So, you know, in a couple of months, we'll have a good idea on the progress of the driving of the long sheet piles. So by Christmas time, we'll have a better understanding on the risk and what the schedule may look like.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. This will take us forward to the consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the consent calendar?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, Soundview Park, contract award and consultant agreement task order for construction engineering services. Item 3, 2021 to 2023 recycling program funding. Item 4, Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation. Item 5, Metro Community Shuttle Project Agreement extension. And item 6, consultant contract amendment number 11, Grant Fredericks. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? I see Councilmember Nutting.
I approve the consent calendar as read.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Buxton. Does any council member wish to remove any items? Councilmember Harris.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to pull item 2 and item 5, if I may.
Item 2 and item 5. So the block that we will be voting on is item 1, approval of vouchers, 3, the recycling program funding, 4, domestic violence awareness month, and 6, consultant contract. So all those in favor of that block minus items 2 and 5, please raise your hand until I call your name. Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. This passes 7-0. Okay, at this point, we will go back to item number 2, Soundview Park Van Gasken contract. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to spend any time on this. I just never want to vote for anything having to do with this project. So that's why I pulled it. So, you know, let's vote and move on.
Okay. Councilmember Nutting.
I just, motion number 1 is to award Soundview Park Van Gasken Public Works contract to Prospect Contract Inc. in the amount of $993,788.36 and authorize the city manager to sign said contract substantially in the form as submitted. I further move to authorize a contingency of up to $100,049 to cover the unforeseen conditions and change orders and determine necessary by Public Works Director.
second,
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Councilmember Banks. Dan Brewer is asking for the floor.
As Councilmember Nutting read the motion, he read that as $100,049. It should be $149,000.
But we'll take the motion as corrected.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, any discussion on that? All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. Okay, I see Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. Opposed? Councilmember Martinelli and Councilmember Harris. Passes 5-2. We have a motion number 2. I bring the floor back to Councilmember Nutting.
Approve KPFF Inc. Task Order 19-159-02, Amendment 3 for construction services necessary for the Soundview Park project in the amount of $136,535.93 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract amendment substantially in the form as submitted.
second,
Motion made by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Councilmember Bangs. Any discussion? Okay, so on this item, I saw Councilmember Martinelli and let's see, and Councilmember Harris. I'll start with Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just clarifying that I'm voting no on these two motions because I very much oppose the city's approach to how the Van Gasken property was handled. And that's why I'll be voting no for these two motions.
Okay, Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, just for the sake of the public, I didn't make it clear. I oppose anything that would lead to the destruction of the Van Gasken house. I believe in preservation of our historic heritage, and that's it.
Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I do see that there's a tension between the two ideas. I do appreciate something that was mentioned during when we first entertained this entire process. 2 points. One is that the house has been for sale for $1 ever since we made the original decision. And I'm not aware of activity on that front, but it seems like if there were something serious, we would have been made aware. And then personally, I pay rent to the Duwamish, and just as an aside, anybody can do it. It's called Real Rent Duwamish because the Duwamish tribe was not officially recognized. And so as a tribe, and you can go online to do that if you'd like to pay rent. So the question is, which history are we preserving? And I'm just that question was brought up when we discussed this originally, and I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. I believe, Councilmember Buxton, this was looked into. This house did not qualify to be put on any historical register because of a variety of things. If the public is interested, they can go back and understand all of the work that the staff did. And it was all made public in the meetings when we made the decisions. I do think that when this is taken care of, this is one of these things that I think the public will be absolutely elated with, because we have seen the plans of what is intended to do with that park. And I think it will be, again, it'll be amazing. I know people were concerned when the Wasson House was looked at. And now that the Wasson House is gone and we have that clear pass through to the beach park, everybody thinks it's absolutely fantastic. So anyway, with that, seeing no more hands, I will call the vote. All those in favor of motion number 2, please raise your hand until I call your name. See, Councilmember Banks, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. Opposed? Councilmember Martinelli and Councilmember Harris. Passes 5-2. Okay, that clears item number 2. We are now at item number 5, the Metro Community Shuttle Project Agreement Extension. And I believe Councilmember Harris, you pulled this as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just hoping in my questions to the administration this week, if there were any kind of statistics as to actual ridership. Has it met its goals? And, is there any kind of tracking we could look at?
So let me respond to that, Mayor. Councilmember Harris, that was a memorandum of understanding between Metro and the city, not necessarily performance-based. We were monitoring performance. I think Bonnie, I think we have a slide of ridership from the inception of there we go. So that is what ridership has looked like on the shuttle. It met what the goals were despite COVID. There are a few months in there, you can see April and May in 2020 when COVID was at its highest, that there was a reduction in ridership. But overall, those are the numbers that you asked for. And we presented them at this point since the entire council will be taking a position on this item.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, forgive me. We have a motion to adopt the Des Moines Community Shuttle Project. Councilmember Nutting, sorry.
I move to adopt the Des Moines City Community Shuttle Project Agreement Extension between King County Metro and the City of Des Moines, and authorize the city manager to sign and implement the agreement extension substantially in the form presented.
Do I have a second? I see
Okay.
Deputy, I saw Deputy Mayor Mahoney's hand. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. See Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. This passes 7-0. Okay. This completes our consent calendar as amended. I will now read the Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation into the record. Now, therefore, the Des Moines City Council wishes to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and encourages the community to ensure that victims of domestic violence know that they are not alone and we are here to support survivors of domestic violence as they courageously move forward to enjoy full and healthy lives. This now takes us to new business items. Are there any council members that have an item that they wish to bring forward? Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Yes, I had a few discussions with Representative Orwell and a few others. And in our legislative agenda, in addition to some of the other things we talked about at the state level, banning, mufflers, et cetera, one idea that came forth that I would like to explore and possibly add is right now, cameras are only allowed in school areas and high contact intersections, as I believe it. And what I think we should do is explore street racing areas where cameras can be put. And those would be like Redondo and up on 24th, et cetera, maybe Pack Highway as well. So I'm just thinking we should start entertaining that idea as part of that ask to the legislative agenda. Thank you.
Manager Mathias.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just so everyone's clear on the process. So we anticipate in November, we'll have our legislative advocate, Mr. Hempstead, attend a council meeting, and we'll review what will be the items put in the 2022 legislative agenda for the city of Des Moines. And that's certainly an opportunity at that time. Council members can introduce anything they feel is worthy, both either of being included or if it requires more research so we can understand, what's possible. We'll be happy to do that at that time. I think I'd like to kind of focus it on that meeting and that process rather than having multiple suggestions, and all of which are valuable. But I think if we can kind of coalesce it into one process, it's going to be a little easier. So thank you.
Yep, that's city manager. That's fair enough. I just throwing out the idea to put in everybody's head as we go forward.
I think it will also require for the suggestion, which I do think is a good one, and it's come up quite a bit where we've been asked, can we put traffic cameras in certain areas where there is a problem with street racing and so forth? And I stand to be corrected by our city attorney and our police, our deputy police chief and our city manager or anybody else. But the last bit of information I got when I asked about this is that you can put speed cameras in school zones. That's the only place that they're allowed. And that the other cameras, like for intersections, they aren't related to speed. They're related to whether or not people stop or they drive through the intersection. So that is, and I believe that's a state law. Am I correct, city attorney?
Yeah, that's so the state has the use of cameras for specific purposes, and they don't have a general speed authorization at this time. They also authorize them for school buses, for passing school buses. So they've been adding to it, but currently they don't have a general speed authorization.
Okay, so, and I'll recognize Councilmember Buxton and then Councilmember Harris in a minute. So I think it's important to note that it would take some changes at the state level to look at this further. And so with that, I will go to the first hand I saw, which was Councilmember Buxton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That's what I was going to clarify. I think that the reason that the deputy mayor is bringing it up is to encourage our legislators to move forward in changing that. I think there's a movement across the country that also would, as a result, kind of eliminate a little bit more face-to-face interaction for police officers right now, eliminate even certain kind of, racism pressure that way. So it's becoming popular, and I think actually Tacoma has a modified pilot that they're working on. So I think that's where he's going with that, to press for that change in our state legislation. Thank you.
Thank you for that insight. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Deputy Mayor, you're proposing speed cameras, am I right? Or is this general surveillance? I want to make the distinction.
It's speed cameras in those areas where we've been problematic. And as Councilmember Buxton said, it's about changing Washington state law to accommodate those.
Yeah, no, I get it, but it would be for some form of automated, traffic enforcement.
Absolutely, it's speed enforcement. It's a workforce multiplier in difficult circumstances.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so City Manager Mathias has made his comments, and they'll be coming back in November, and you are familiar with what the council is requesting. So hopefully that will be part of the discussion that you bring back in November.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may also add one thing, a lot of aspects of law enforcement, requirements, rules, policies, protocols, all of that have undergone some very significant changes in the last couple of years. And I think that there is definitely an interest on the part of the legislature to make sure that everything they do complies with fairness, equity, addresses diversity issues, but also provides for law enforcement. And so I think that this is an opportunity, working with Chief Thomas, who's very involved with this, and with Anthony, our legislative advocate, is very involved with this, that there may be opportunities to try to prevail on some of these types of issues. So this is a great it's good to keep in mind that, the law enforcement piece, I think, will be significant in our efforts this coming year. So thank you.
Oh, that's an excellent addition. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will now go on to our board and committee reports and council member comments. And tonight we will start with Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a public safety emergency management meeting this evening. And the primary topic was the body camera policy, of which we had very good discussion. Rather than go through everything, what we wanted to do was have Assistant Police Chief Cooey take back our edits and then also provide us with some examples or samples from other agencies related to this specific policy. So not to delve into it, we are going to get that as a committee. And then I believe we're going to also have the changes to requested changes reviewed. And then we'll have another meeting. And I believe we should have one in November. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got a few quick things. Mount Rainier versus Auburn Riverside tomorrow at it's a home game, 7 p.m. At Highline Stadium, pink out theme, and the wonderful new Boosters Club will be out there with a table selling Rams gear. They've got hats, visors, all sorts of stuff. It was a big hit last time. And then the Smoking Hot, they're just red hot this year. The volleyball team will have a home game at Mount Rainier versus Tahoma on Tuesday night, October 12th at 7:15. And I'm just bringing that up because attendance, Mount Rainier just wants your attendance. They want people from the city to come and alumni to get out there and support them. And they're on the streak to go to state right now. The volleyball team is, so a pretty good team. And then one last thing, the Lighthouse Northwest is having their 5th annual auction. There's a celebration event in person, October 24th from 3 to 5, an online auction that goes from the 21st to the 24th, and then a virtual 5K on the 23rd. All of this can be found at lighthousenw.org/celebrate21. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mayor. So I attended an FAA workshop with Representative Orwell, and I was struck by the industry claims that they will be able to wring out about 20% more efficiency or reductions in noise and pollution by the time you get to electric aircraft. That's the best that you could ever hope to do if you replaced all the engines and sustainable aviation fuels. It's just ridiculous. So so I'm going to use my time for the audience. It would be worth a Google for a guy named Claire Patterson, who's the most important chemist you've never heard of. He has in the top 5 people who, in terms of saving most lives in human history. And what the guy did was he took 35 years to figure out how to measure the amount of lead there is in the world. There was so much lead in everything. Lead is just a remarkable element that it was at the top of Mount Everest and at the bottom of the ocean. So you could never measure people's exposure to it. And he spent 30 years in anonymity learning how to measure lead. And that led to the EPA and the Clean Air Act and getting rid of lead from gasoline. And children's IQs are notably higher simply from the removal of lead. And the point I'm trying to make here is that I keep pushing on the rock for air quality monitoring around SeaTac Airport, because we get these ad hoc studies and they're very noble every few years, move up and so on. But what allowed all of the different things to remove lead from the environment was that he figured out a way to measure it year after year, so you could figure out people's exposure over time. You can't do that with a one-off study. You have to have sampling data every year, neighborhood by neighborhood. And so the only point of all my shenanigans with airport stuff is that I want to give a gift to decision makers in 2027, 2030 that says, here's your exposure in Riverton Heights and in Zenith and in Seahurst, okay, year upon year upon year, so that then they can go, oh, I see how that correlates with various diseases and health outcomes, because the residents have always had these notions that the aviation admissions do something to us, but because you don't have that year on year data, you can never get to that. So that's the point of all my constant nonsense that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'd like to join my colleague, Councilmember Nutting, in recognizing and reemphasizing DV Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and respond to the proclamation and invite you to support Lighthouse Northwest. They are having, what I'm trying to do is build a team to participate in the 5K on Saturday morning, October 23rd. So we will be down at the beach park at 9 a.m. and we're going to just join along with Park Run on their 5K route. So at 9 a.m. if you'd like to join us, you and Councilmember Nutting already talked about the link to the site, but I put out several invites on community pages. If you go out on the community pages and look for it, there's an invitation to join us. And afterwards, also there are going to be several domestic violence support, community support agencies joining us as a community resources to answer questions down at the quarter deck. And so we'll have a silent witness memorial down there with stories about people who have been victimized by domestic violence. And it's a sobering exposure there, but I hope that the community can join us. So, and in addition to, so closing up with that, I would like to also respond to our decision in regard to our ARPA funding. So as that meeting a couple weeks ago closed up, we were not able to give some follow-up comments. So I would like to take a little opportunity right now to do that in regard to my decision-making. So that evening and also the next day, I did, for reference, I did post a summary follow-up out on Facebook if you'd like to read the detail of that on September 17th under Tracy Buxton, and also in the Des Moines Politics page on September 16th. And I believe that Councilmember Martinelli also posted a summary on one of the community pages that same evening. So those will be helpful. I want to say what I did before we made these decisions is I researched other cities in the region, how much they were getting, when they were going to allocate, and how they determined their allocations. I kept a spreadsheet of every email, text, message, social media comment, and suggestion, and even the number of similar requests. I matched every request with a possible allocation idea. Then I made a spreadsheet of that. Then I matched that spreadsheet against the draft allocations that we received from the staff. I made a few council member requests accordingly. If there was a gap or something that I saw or that wasn't mentioned anywhere. So I made some specific requests into the staff then that were added later. I worked hard to bring a reasonable set of requests and allocations to the table. So my conclusions after that work. I would like to submit that this was not a haphazard process, neither for us individually nor for the staff. Each of us on the council here, all 7 of us, put in hours of thought and research into the process before we came to the virtual dais on September 16th. We were far from the first in our region to make these decisions, and we relied on more input than many cities did. So one thing I did is also went out and did research on, I think I did already mention that. So other cities. Some cities simply assigned the entire task to their chief administrator to submit for council approval, and that was it. Could we have waited? Yes, but because we made these decisions already, we can already begin helping our citizens who've been affected by the pandemic. We made allocations very similar to our sister cities. We have done nothing entirely unique. I haven't read of anything completely unique anywhere. In all my reading of all the cities that have made allocations and decisions. And I think this is due to the constraints already in place for the funding. These constraints naturally lead to very similar allocations across the country. No matter where you live or how much community input you seek, allocations all over the country are going to look very similar. With regard to the requests that I perceived from all over the community, just about everyone got something. No one got everything. So in summary, I would like to quote myself from Facebook. It wasn't perfect, but it is truly an amazing gift, no matter how it would have been dispersed. Even if we had allocated the entire $9 million to only one thing, our city would have received an incredible gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments tonight.
Okay, we'll go to Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start off with with agreeing 100% with Councilmember Buxton. We've been having conversations for the last year about ways and good things we could do to spend that money. So absolutely agree. I want to talk about a few things. A couple Saturdays back, September 18th, we had International Coastal Cleanup. We pulled over about approximately 400 pounds out around the pier. I want to thank Harbor Master Wilkins and his staff. He got that badly needed shower on the end of the event where it just doused the entire farmer's market. Susie Novak at the Farmers Market deserves special recognition. SR3, Washington Scuba Alliance, and Seattle Dive Tours, and of course our own dive shops, 8 and TLC had a hand as well. I attended a Destination Des Moines meeting this week. Exciting thing is they on October 30th from 2 to 5, there'll be the traditional downtown Halloween event. Their permit was approved. Thank you, Michael and staff, for reviewing that and ensuring the safety of our citizens. We will have tables at the theater. I've already checked and made sure that we can do that. So all council members, I invite you to grab your Costco bags of candy and be down there for that event. And Councilmember Buxton and I'll give you some more details because we're meeting on correlating that. We had a transportation meeting on September 30th. We talked about the MARINA update, which we asked you guys to be provided. And it was better than I could hope for. So thank you, Andrew, Dan, and Brandon. Sound transit updates, as well as the 24th Street process and what's going on and some of the challenges there. But inevitably trying to make safe routes to school is what's important there, and a quality road. I also saw Councilmember Nutting at the Mount Rainier game. And what a finish, just so you guys know. It was a tip pass at the it was 7 seconds that would have probably created a tie that they were able to, our defense was able to do. But in addition to that, I attended the Federal Whale game a few weeks back and they won 36-7. Just to give them a little love, because Federal Way High School is in our district, our city as well. They play this Saturday at Kennedy Catholic, and they're both teams are 3-2. Today, I attended a ribbon cutting in SeaTac. I crossed the border. There wasn't any concertina wire or barriers or anything like that, but we did joke about it. And what was really great about this event is it's the intersection of 200th and Des Moines Memorial Drive. And this is where it was badly needed, and it was a partnership between the two cities. The common thing that was said throughout was what a great job the city staff did, Michael, in particular, and how well the two cities work together. And it just shows in these projects that cross borders how things can work, and we can use money together to be effective. And for us, I think the exciting thing is as we work on a grant for the safe streets, that's going to be on 200, that'll help our students that go to Maritime High School and Des Moines or North Hill Elementary. The only thing, and in closing, I had words, but I'm going to hold back. Mayor, I want to thank you for your words about the incident on Pack Highway. My condolences to the family, and violence is never the answer. With that, thank you.
Thank you. So I just have just a few things. In September, there were a couple of letters I signed on to with other mayors. One had to do with King County redistricting, and it was the distinction. The title was Distinction Between South King County Cities and the City of Seattle and the King County Redistricting Process. I signed on with Mayor Dana Ralph, Armando Pavone from Renton, and Aaron Searley, the mayor of SeaTac. And we just pointed out, we did not make a recommendation. We just pointed out that we requested every effort to acknowledge the very different political climate that exists between our cities, communities, and the city of Seattle as you update the boundary lines for 9 county council districts. We also noted towards the end that we would urge that you as a committee members avoid such an outcome and work to reposition district boundaries so that the distinctions between Seattle and suburban cities continue to be respected and honored. And then there was another letter. This involved the mayors of Burien, Federal Way, Normandy Park, Tukwila, SeaTac, myself, and also it was signed by Fred Fellman from the Port of Seattle and Director Lance Little. And this was a letter that went to Eva Air. They do have conducted some of the late night flights that have been of impact to the city. And we noted that we were pleased to share our collective gratitude to Eva Air for making the change to a quieter Boeing 787 and for the carrier's commitment to being a good neighbor to cities adjacent to SeaTac. Eva Air's decision to operate the Boeing 787 at SeaTac has lessened noise, particularly in the late hours. So it was just to thank them and encourage them to come to the table and be a good neighbor and minimize the impact to our cities with their aircraft. And then finally, on September 21st, as the city manager said, I did represent the city on the trial run of a foot ferry. And there's nothing I can say that would do justice to all the photographs, except for the fact that if I worked downtown and could get on one of these boats to come south, I would do so. They are comfortable. It's a very smooth ride. I think it depends on whether you're going with the current or against the current. It always seems longer when you're going to the destination for the first time than it does coming home, but it was somewhere around, and I don't have the exact timing, but somewhere around 20 minutes. And when you raise your head and you see orcas outside the boat, or you get to see, these incredible views, you have the comfort. If you're a paying passenger, you have the comfort of buying a beverage or snack and opening up your laptop. That would be an incredible way to finish to finish a day and to start one. So again, I said this on the boat, and I want to say it again. The Griffith family has been very generous in providing boats and helping us, connect with interested parties in the community down at the marina. And so I really want to thank them again publicly. And I look forward to this public-private partnership moving forward in the future. It's one of these things that we thought it would take a full marina redevelopment before it could happen, and it may happen even before then. So there is nothing cast in stone. There are no agreements signed or anything at this time, but we, at least this particular council member, is looking forward to the potential and the opportunity that this brings to the city of Des Moines. So with that, I will note that we are at the end of our meeting tonight, and our next meeting will be on October 21st, 2021. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I see Councilmember Nutting.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bangs. All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. I see Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself.